show you a clip of it. I like Old Testament imagery, and I love the talks of kings and kingdoms falling, and related to me so well because I realized that I had built my own kingdom, and this kingdom that I built was built on anxiety. Like, as I got closer to God, he showed me that my walls surrounding my castle were made of sand. You know, he would give a gentle tap, a gentle touch to the walls, and they would just crumble. Not only on the outer walls, but on the inner walls of my castle. My kingdom was just falling apart, including my crown. All of this just to say that the Lord will honestly break down your walls. But the closer you get to him, the more that he starts to break down walls. But something that you have to realize is that these walls were never meant to be put up. When I talk about walls breaking and kingdoms falling, these are all false kingdoms, you know? That's exactly how the enemy works. He loves to build false kingdoms because the man is mad that God's kingdom is prevailing no matter what. Satan is at a disadvantage because no matter what he does, God wins. Satan is mad because no matter what he does, Jesus has already won the battle. He's already died on the cross for us, and it doesn't need to be an act or an action that happens repeatedly, because he was the perfect sacrifice. He was the perfect sacrificial lamb that took upon sin. It's literally a Bible verse. He who was sinless took on sin. And that's something that, like, as my kingdom walls fall, it breaks me to realize, like, what Jesus did, honestly. And not only Jesus, but what the Father did. Like, I imagine myself, I don't have any kids yet, but I have a little sister, and who I love, like, so deeply. I worry for her, I care for her, and, like, to imagine that, like, I imagine myself, like, having to give her up. I can't even imagine having to do that, you know? And the fact that he did it, not because he was like, that way, this way they'll have to own me, but because he said, you know, I'm doing this out of love. They can't keep this covenant, and they can't keep this covenant of the 10 commandments, so I'm gonna give my son up to fulfill every single commandment. And that's, like, it used to not break me, because I think it's just something that, like, especially as a Christian, you hear it for years, you know, like, Jesus gave his life up, but then when you realize, like, the price that he paid, it's a completely different ball game, because you realize, like, there's this battle that's going on, and the battle is between truth and lies. Unfortunately, like, many of us, even Christians, have allowed lies to win for long enough, and it takes a lot of humility before the Lord, because humility is not enough. Humility, being humble, is not enough, but being humble enough to say, God, search my heart, because in all honesty, there's some wicked ways within it that I don't even know about. That's like next level humility. And of course there's grace within that. Like, it's all Holy Spirit led, but it's like coming to that point, it requires surrender. It requires for you to say, you know what, I'm not right, but I know someone who is. And in all honesty, it's hurt me. It hurts me to humble myself to that level of surrender, because for so long, like, even now, my pride is like, I might have built a kingdom on made out of sand, but at least I built a kingdom. Yeah, it might have crumbled at like that's a single touch from the Lord, but I still built it. And I'm just laughing because it's like, it sounds so funny, but It's true. It's the flesh is like, let's run it back. This time we'll use wet sand. We'll make sure the sand's a little harder. It's so funny because I'm living it, you know? I'm living the breaking of the false kingdom, and it's just funny because I'm just like, there's parts of me that are like, nah, but this is real. This is truth that I'm standing on. And then what's this? And then he'll like flick his finger. So yeah, God will just like flick his finger and destroy another wall to my kingdom. And I'll be like, it was that easy for you to do that? And I guess all of this just to say, pausing before the Lord, it sounds beautiful because like, I mean, I always thought it was just gonna be like beautiful, honestly. Like you hear the words intimacy, you hear the story of Mary versus Martha. You hear Mary is doing the thing which is better, and you're like, all right, this is the better thing. But then when you're confronted with reality and you realize that you've been living in an altered reality, it's bittersweet, honestly. Sweet, of course. Bitter. Okay, let me just bring up the bitter first, just because I want to get the bitter out of the way, because I don't want to focus on the bitter, because you're like, for at least for me, I'm 25 years old, bro, and I've allowed this false perspective of life, this false humility of mine to dictate a lot of the choices that I've made, you know? And it's sweet because in these moments of brokenness before the Father, you're given the freedom to be the person you've always been afraid to be. Because the person you've always been afraid to be is most likely the person that you actually are. At least for my case. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but yeah. And it's beautiful to be, it's beautiful and ugly. It's dry and it's full of life. It's every single paradox you can think of. Like, not every single paradox, but it's paradoxical to a certain extent, because you're like, dang, I deceived myself for this long. But then you also have to realize that this is a door that you've been praying for. This dry season that I'm in, this desert quote unquote season that I'm in, is something that my soul has been crying for, because it's within this desert season that I'm seeing God. It's within this desert season that I'm becoming more dependent on God, where he's helping me see that I'm self-sufficient. He's helping me see that I've been independent, trying to do things on my own my whole life, and that he's been there the whole time, wanting to help me, wanting to take upon everything that I carry, but that I never allowed him to, out of pride, out of saying, you know what? It was this weird paradox, once again, of like, I know God's going to heal this, therefore I'm not going to bring it to God because he already knows. And that's true to a certain extent. But if you're not being honest with God, he's not going to shed light on whatever darkness that you may be dealing with. And I'm pretty sure I've mentioned that within other videos. But I think now it's become even more real because I'm being exposed to the light more. But being exposed to the light more makes you realize how much darkness there is, you know? Which is like, I don't know. I'm still kind of in that in-between season where I'm just like, as you can tell, I'm still kind of shaken by it, by realizing how much lie I've allowed to take root, how many lies I've allowed to take root. And it's like, in all honesty, I'm just learning to let go and trying not to grow bitter because of course the lie was inherited, you know? The lie wasn't something that like I automatically believed. It was something like, if it's deeply rooted in me, it's something that was beaten into me, you know? And it's honestly it's a lot easier for you to be bitter about it than for you to find hope and joy within it. And I think little by little I'm starting to cross over to that other side of hope and joy instead of bitterness. And yeah, I had a whole other video planned. It sucks that it didn't work out. It's kind of a cool idea. I don't even want to talk about it. I'll talk about it when I re-record it. But as for now, this is the video. I'm rebranding soon. I'm making a new logo. I have a new name. I don't want to say it yet. I think there's like 2 friends that I have who know about it. But yeah, sometimes this is what it is. I had this whole perfect video planned out, but in the end, this is what's coming out. because I think it kind of has to do with the season that I'm in as well. It's just like I've based a lot of what I do. I hope like a lot of my relationship with Christ was based on performance and wanting to people please. And it's weird because I wanted to people please the Lord, you know? I wanted to please him so that he could love me more. But in doing that, like, I just ended up growing bitter towards him, getting angry because I grew entitled to blessings. Instead of looking at blessings through the eyes of a son, I looked at the blessings as something I was entitled to. And that's just one of the things that the Lord's breaking off of me. And yeah, hope you guys are doing good. God bless you guys. I pray that you guys are doing well. Pray for me, because the desert season is deserting. But it's really good because it's bittersweet. Because there's a deeper intimacy with the Lord. There's a deeper listening. I'm hearing him more clearly, but I'm still in the desert, which maybe like, and then of course, little by little, like the Lord's kind of shifting my perspective of even what I just said, like being content with being in the desert and only having him, you know? But yeah, love you guys, praying for you all, and I will see you next Friday. I want to try to reshoot this video as soon as possible, so I might upload it Wednesday, because it was kind of a cool concept. And yeah, peace.